Welcome back to our last day of week of prayer. This has been a great week, and I know that God has been blessing as you've been participating every day. And by now, you know all three of the messages of Revelation 14. Let's stop for a minute so you can have a chance to share. I'd like for you to try and remember each of the messages and then tell your neighbor why these messages matter to you and to your life today. So you know the drill. Pause the video and talk. I'm sure you had some great conversations. By now, I'm pretty convinced that you know each of the messages and why they are important for your life today. But did you know that the three angels' messages are a big part of what makes us unique as Seventh-day Adventists? That's why I think it's so important for us to have this opportunity to really get together and study Revelation 14. And today is a really special day because we've come to the best part of the messages. It's kind of like the heart of the artichoke. Have any of you ever eaten an artichoke? It's kind of an unusual vegetable, but I remember when we were kids, we'd have them about once a year when they came into season. And my mom would somehow cook them up in an electric frying pan with just a little bit of oil, a little bit of salt, and you slide the leaves through your teeth. Have you eaten them? But the rule was in our family that you had to save the heart for last. The oil from the frying pan, the little bit of salt, and that heart would just melt in your mouth. Revelation 14 gives three very serious, very urgent warnings, and then comes the heart of the artichoke, what it's all building up to. But before we get to the heart, let's go through all three of the messages one more time to be sure you have it down. Remember, your teacher wants to hear you, so read with me, please. You ready? Let's go. Angel 1, he said in a loud voice, "Fear God and give him glory, because the hour of his judgment has come. Worship him who made the heavens, the earth, the sea, and the springs of water." Angel 2. Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she seduced the nations of the world and made them share the wine of her intense impurity and sin. Angel number 3. If anyone worships the beast in his image and receives his mark on his forehead or on his hand, he himself shall also drink of the wine of the wrath of God. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are those who keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. And now, the short version. First angel. God is our judge. He's fair, he's good, he's true, he's right. We worship him on the seventh day because he made the earth in 6 literal days and rested on the Sabbath. Second angel. Religious and political leaders will join together before Jesus comes to try and force people to break God's 4th commandment. And the third angel. Some people will follow the crowd and sell out. Others will stay connected to Jesus Christ, keep their minds focused on him, and use their hands to do his will. That's it. That's your three angels' messages. And now the good part. Did you see that last part of the third angel's message when we read that last part? Did you see those words that we haven't really talked about yet? What did they say? Here is the patience, right? Patience of the saints. Here are those who keep the commandments of God and have the faith of Jesus. I just love this part. Patience and faith, those are beautiful, wonderful things. Do you know anybody who's patient? If you do, that's a gift. You can be all stressed out, and the patient person will say, "Don't worry, it's okay, we have time." You can be doing something that's really important to you, finishing up a project or something, and they'll say, "Oh, take your time, get it just right. It's okay, I can wait." Maybe you're stuck in a traffic jam and you're fuming, and they'll say, "Well, let's just find a good station on the radio and chill for a little while." Oh my goodness, patient people, God bless them. Patient people are such a blessing to have around. I'm going to ask you now to pause the video and think about somebody you know that's very patient and you're going to tell your neighbor all about that person. Okay? So pause the video. It's your turn now. I hope you're able to think of somebody in your life that demonstrates patience. Now, what about faith? What does it mean to have the faith of Jesus? Well, what kind of faith did Jesus have? You know, Jesus never once questioned his mission. He never lost his faith, and you would never ever hear him praying to his Father something like this: why did I have to come down here? In heaven everything's calm, peaceful, beautiful, and I'm sent down here where people are fighting, arguing, trying to kill me. I've got this human body now that makes me hungry and thirsty and tired, and I sweat and I ache and I hurt and I cry. Oh, Father, what were you thinking? No. Never, ever, ever did he pray anything even close to that. Jesus accepted his mission. What he was called to do was harder than any of us can ever possibly imagine, because he had the power that he could use, but he chose not to because Jesus had faith. If you have the faith of Jesus, you look forward, not back. You believe things will work out no matter what. You know that in the big picture, God's got you. Sure, you hit the bumps in the road, but you keep praying, keep believing, keep going. I love this text in Ephesians 6, and I'm sure most of you are very, very familiar with the beginning part of the verse, but it's the ending that really makes me smile whenever I read this verse. Let's read it together now. Ephesians 6:14. You ready? Therefore, put on the full armor of God, so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground, and after you've done everything, to stand. That's the part I like. So we know about putting on the armor of God. We know about the belt of truth and the shield of faith and the sword of the Spirit. But I just love this image of putting it all on and standing. And then, after you've done everything you can, just keep standing. I just like that. So when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground. The verse could have ended there. But then it says, and after you've done everything, to stand. Patience and the faith of Jesus is all it takes. To just keep standing, be patient. Believe God's got you. Then whatever happens, just keep standing. Head up, shoulders back, face forward, safe in the arms of Jesus. So the heart of the artichoke, God's saints, full of patience, with the faith of Jesus, holding on to him, knowing that they can't do it alone, but they can do it through him, waiting for Jesus to come. I just love this. And you know what? We don't have to wait until some big thing happens to become patient saints or to have the faith of Jesus. We can start right now doing what's right, being kind, being brave, being the kind of person that inspires others. I guess I'm pretty fortunate because the two people that raised me are the two people I think of when it comes to faith and patience. Now, my dad was a man of great faith, and my mom was a woman of great patience. I'll tell you a little bit about my dad. Many of you may have heard my dad's story. I actually wrote a book about it. When it first came out, it was called Nobody's Boy. Now it's called Finally Free. And here's the book. My dad lived to be 89 years old, and in all that time, he was never able to figure out where he came from. He remembered when he was little, just being passed around from one relative to another relative. Nobody ever really wanted him. He lived in poverty in New York City during the Great Depression. He went to 17 schools in 11 years. No wonder he dropped out of high school. He lied about his age so that he could get into the Navy at the age of 17. So as a teenager, he was fighting in World War II. But through it all, God had his hand on my dad's life. You know, my dad met a Seventh-day Adventist man at work, started taking Bible studies. This guy just knew that Dad had a searching heart. And 3 years after Dad started taking those studies, he was baptized. But my dad never, ever forgot where he came from and how God blessed him. We would be driving up to our house and he'd say, "Oh, look at that house. Who lives there?" He would always do that. And he would take us from Connecticut down to New York City to these rough areas where he lived. And we would be scared. We'd be begging to go home. Homeless people banging on the car. Dad saying, "Are you grateful yet? are you grateful yet? Because he knew what God took him out of. So my dad was a man of faith. No matter what happened, he believed God was directing his life. He never ever wavered in his faith. Not when a dishonest man robbed him of his business. Not when an investor lost all the money from the sale of his home. Not when a hurricane destroyed his RV in Florida. At the end of his life, Dad told my sister Dale, I would not change a thing. God led me all the way. So if Dad was bold and optimistic and faith-filled and adventurous and confident, my mom was one of the shyest people you could ever meet. And here they are on their wedding day. Isn't this cool? I love this picture. It's kind of a period piece when you look at it. So my mom was a devout Catholic, and she joined the Adventist church 10 years after my dad. You know, he was very patient in waiting for her. But anyway, so we went to this tiny, tiny little church, 25 people. And when we walked in, you know, we sat down, and then after we'd been there a few times, somebody from the front said to my mother, Gloria, what's your favorite hymn? Well, my mom was so nervous in front of 25 people, and she barely squeaked out 606. So that became kind of the family joke. You know, Mom's big speech, if you ask anybody to this day, what was Mom's big speech? 606. And people would ask my mom, you're just so quiet and timid. How did you raise a family of public speakers? And you know what my mom would say? She'd say, I just listened. And my mom was a listener, a great listener. She was very patient, very gentle, very kind. A little bit about her background. Her mother was French-Canadian, and her dad, Mark Jackson, came to the U.S. as a little boy on a boat from England with all of his big brothers and his dad. And when they got here, all the big brothers and the dad went into a factory and they worked all day. And little Mark Jackson stayed home while the landlady looked in on him once in a while. And his mom wouldn't be there for another few years, but he turned out fine. And as soon as Mark Jackson was old enough, he got a job in the mill. So my mom was raised in a family of mill workers. She never had the chance to go to college because her family just didn't have the money. She did really, really well in high school, and she was actually valedictorian of a very large class. And she remembers after graduation, all the kids were saying, we're going off to college. She just stood there. You see, her dad was a very humble man. And even though his boss said, your daughter is a very intelligent woman, I'll pay for her to go off to college, Mark Jackson said, oh, I couldn't expect you to do that. So he was proud that he got my mom a job at the same mill where he worked. That was the best he could do. And he really felt like he was doing right by her. So my mom told me that she remembered feeling really funny walking across town. It just felt like every eye on that whole town was looking at her as she walked across this little town to get her job at the mill, to go to her job at the mill. So anyway, she was a very shy person, very smart, very quiet, and very, very kind. The kindest, most patient person I've ever met. And the story I'd like to close with today is about a time when I was in high school. One summer, my two sisters and I decided that we wanted to learn to sew. Now, I'm not a real hands-on person when it comes to following directions, putting things together. I'm kind of not sure why I got into sewing in the first place. Well, yes, I am. I loved picking the material, the patterns, the colors, the ideas. I'm creative, so that was all very exciting to me. But when it came to actually putting it together, operating the machine and all that, I wasn't always that good. I think I was maybe a little too impatient to see the finished product. I mean, I remember a dress I made, beautiful gold dress. We paid a lot for the material, velvet collar, but one side was a little longer than the other. And I had to wear it like that. So some of the things that I made did not come out that good because I'm not a perfectionist when it comes to things like that. So it seems like I would always be asking my mom to bail me out. Maybe the thread was all knotted up, and maybe I cut out one piece when I was supposed to cut out two. And so my mom would always patiently solve all my problems, and then I'd be on my way. Patient woman. So one day I was trying to sew when I realized that I needed to iron the pieces so that they would be smooth enough for me to sew. I think the directions called for that. For once, I was actually following them. So I got up the iron, I let it heat up, I began to iron the pieces, but something was wrong. The fabric just kept bubbling up, and then it started to stick to the iron. I was getting more and more frustrated. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't figure out what was wrong. Is there something wrong with the material? Is there something wrong with the iron? I had no idea what the problem was. Well, of course, I had turned the iron up too high. It was so hot that it was sizzling and spitting, but I just kept going. I didn't think to turn the iron down, and the more I worked, the more the fabric just kept sticking to the iron. Finally, I went to my mom, who was sitting in the other room. I said, Mom, I don't know what to do. I'm trying to sew. I have everything pinned. I'm trying to iron. Something is wrong with the material, or there is a problem with this dumb iron. What is the problem? Why is this thing sticking? And my mother said, there's another iron in the hall closet. Bring me the iron. Now, boys and girls, I don't know what happened in my head. I heard my mother say, there's another iron in the hall closet. I heard her say that. I actually remember thinking, I know the hall closet she's talking about. And I heard her say, bring me the iron. When she said that, somehow my head was mixed up. I guess I was just so frustrated I wasn't thinking straight. But when she said, bring me the iron, my mind went back to that too hot, sizzling iron that wasn't working right. I don't know if I thought she was going to try to figure out what was wrong with that iron before to see if we needed to get the other one. I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking. So I went back and I got that hot iron. And I thought my mother was going to take it by the handle. I just kind of held it out to her, not knowing that she thought that was the cold iron from the closet. And I reached over and I handed her this hot, sizzling iron to my gentle mother, who'd never hurt a single soul in her entire life. And she reached out to take it, and suddenly I realized what I was doing. In that split second, I saw those sweet, gentle hands that had always been used in kindness reach out and grab that sizzling iron. It was the saddest, most horrible thing that ever happened. Her skin bubbled up instantly and turned red, and I thought, I just hurt the most important person in my entire life. I didn't know what to do. My mother was in excruciating pain. Her eyes were just teared up. She had these serious burns on her hands. And then I realized that in all that pain, she was trying to say something. She was trying to say something, and I listened, and I finally caught it. You know what she said? It's okay. I know you didn't mean to do this. In our time of greatest pain, my mother was thinking of me. And whenever I think of what it means to be like Jesus, that's the very best I can think of. Somebody in the very midst of their deepest pain was thinking about me. So as I try in my life to be like Jesus, I think of my faith-filled dad. No matter what happened, he believed the Lord was leading. And I think of my patient, kind mom. You know, it's not easy to keep the faith of Jesus. And it's not easy to be patient, especially when things are crumbling and there's problems in your life. It's my prayer today that you will find the joy in following Jesus, that you will accept whatever life he's given you and you'll follow him with all your heart. And you will find yourself in Revelation's crowd of patient saints who have the faith of Jesus. I'm going to ask you to do something right now. If you'd like to commit to being part of that group of patient, faith-filled saints, would you stand up right now, right where you are? Just stand up. I'm so proud of all of you. I know that life can be really, really tough. And I know that some of you have things a lot harder than others. Some of you don't have patient moms or faith-filled dads. Some of you live in very difficult circumstances, and you have to make your own way in the world, just like my dad, who came from such a difficult background where nobody wanted him and treated him very cruelly. Maybe you live in an environment full of chaos. And maybe some others, your life is a little easier, but maybe your goal is to stretch your own faith. Wherever you are, whatever you have or do not have, God is there for you. Thank you for your participation this week and for being brave enough to commit your lives to God today. Let's bow our heads together for our final prayer. Dear Father in heaven, thank you so much for the time we've spent together. Thank you for giving us the three angels' messages in Revelation and for offering us your strength and mercy and grace so that we can be people of faith and patience. Please bless each student and teacher listening today. May we all be united in your kingdom. Amen. Thanks again, guys. And I really hope I can come to your school someday and get to meet all of you. God bless.